penalizes them. The president hopes that this will unleash maybe $4 trillion that can come back to work in the United States of America. We certainly hope it can. Joining me right now with more, Republican Congressman from Florida, Matt Gaetz. Good to see you, Congressman.
Good to see you. And we just had the Vice President walk by. There's a real sense of excitement here that we're delivering on promises for the American people, getting tax rates lower and preparing this economy to really take off.
Well, congratulations. I know you've all been working very hard on it, and you've wanted this to happen, and your moment is here. There was a lot of concern that this would go the way of repeal and replace, but it seems like when push came to shove on this one, you guys were able to get it to the finish line.
Well, and we were even able to get a repeal of the individual mandate, which is a real linchpin of Obamacare, into this legislation. And so it kind of shows that Congress can do its best work when expectations are lowest. And after fumbling health care, there were a lot of people who doubted that we could get to this moment, this historic moment that we've been waiting for since 1986 to reform our tax code. And now that it's here, we're really looking forward to getting the wind in our sails, getting the momentum at our back, and moving forward to ensure that we enact the other reforms necessary.
Indeed, Congressman, this is a historic moment. The House has passed the tax bill, and so Americans will be seeing lower corporate taxes, and many will be seeing lower federal taxes as well. So indeed, a historic moment. This is something that the president campaigned actively on, many Republicans campaigned actively on, and it's here, at least in the House. The Senate, of course, still needs to vote. Congressman, as I said at the top, congratulations. A lot of people didn't think you guys could do it, but you're there. Almost there, I should say, because you don't want to count the chickens before they hatch.
Yeah, we never count chickens before the Senate votes, certainly.
But that said, is there anything in this that you wished was different, that you would like to go back and change in the coming months and years?
There really is, Trish. I wish we would have cut spending at the same time that we cut taxes. I'm uncomfortable with the notion that in the opening years we may add to the deficit as a consequence of this bill, but President Trump and Speaker Ryan have both personally made the commitment to conservatives in the House that the very next thing on the agenda will be entitlement reform and welfare reform. And that pairs well with tax cuts, because once we give more money to our small businesses, we want to make sure that they've got a well-equipped, well-trained workforce that's motivated to get to work and to help this American economy take off.
Well, let me tell you, as someone who is very mindful of not spending more than we have, because I've got 3 young children, and you know, we talk about this all the time. I mean, we need to be going in the right direction. The country cannot continue on this trajectory. I'm with you on that. But let me ask you, Representative, I mean, right there in your home state, Marco Rubio, on the Senate side, he wanted to make sure that we increased welfare for families, and I say welfare because it's the child tax credit, to even people who don't pay anything in taxes. They're still going to get something back. And so that is a form of welfare. So when you talk about entitlement reform, how challenging, how difficult is that going to be for you when already you're doing all these giveaways?
Well, it would, look, if it was easy, we would have done it already. The fact that entitlement reform hasn't happened since Newt Gingrich was Speaker of the House shows how many special interests benefit off of the current system. And so to be able to ensure that we've got a workforce capable of capturing the great possibilities that will come from this tax bill, I really think we're going to have work requirements that mirror those that were negotiated between Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton. Unfortunately, Barack Obama came in and waived a number of those work requirements, and we can do better than that.
Sure, no, and I think people make logical decisions, whatever's best for their family. Here is Paul Ryan. Let's listen in.
Regan Center is laid upon the table.
And the gavel has gone down, and the House has voted to pass the tax reform bill. Lower taxes for American corporations, lower taxes for American citizens. The expectation is that this could do a lot for the American economy. We've got a market that right now is trading pretty much to the flat line, but I'll tell you, it's been up. Nearing 25,000 as investors have been waiting for this day. Of course, we still have the Senate that has to vote as well. I'm joined by Representative Gaetz, who just voted himself, and I can tell you is a pretty happy camper right now, but not counting his chickens before they hatch, because the Senate still needs to do their thing as well. You mentioned, Representative, special interests. And it's something I was just talking with Congresswoman Black about. She had some concerns, as do I, about private equity interests and what is called the carried interest loophole that still exists, something the president promised over and over to get rid of. It basically benefits private equity investors, many of whom are right here in New York City and make a ton of money, like the likes of Steve Schwartzman, raking in $425 million a year, and he basically, percentage-wise, gets to pay less than, say, a New York City cop. Do you expect that to change in the future? What is your thought on that as far as special interests go?
We've discussed it on your show before, Trish, and I think that we've got to strike a balance. We always want to have incentives in our tax system where people who make smart decisions that help grow the economy benefit as a consequence of their work. But I think you've correctly pointed out on the show that some of this carried interest loophole isn't truly work that's being done. And as a consequence, that's a loophole that requires scrutiny. We didn't get all the work done we would have hoped for in this tax bill. That's kind of what it takes to get legislation across the line. You've got to nip and tuck along the way. And my hope is that we won't view this as an end point, but as really the beginning of a thorough review of the laws in Washington to ensure that they don't bend to the will of special interests and that we're able to deliver for the American people. I don't think that we necessarily got to 100% on this bill, but if we got to 70 or 80 or 85%, I still think that's a huge win for the American people.
Congressman, that makes me happy to hear. I think that you have some opportunity going forward to go back and address some of these inequities. But the good news is you've got a lower corporate tax, which will make American corporations more competitive, and we need that in this environment. But I do want you to make sure you're being fair to everyone. So the more we can do on that front, sir, the better.
I agree.
Congressman Gaetz, thank you very much. Congrats. Nicole Petalita is on the floor. The New York